Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting we're having tonight. Josh will be on with us in just a moment. We'd like you to be able to ask Josh Mandel a couple of questions, if you could, please. The best way to do that is to press 0. That's 0 on the keypad on your phone. I'll be introducing him in just a couple of minutes. We want more neighbors to get on the call. Again, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting we're having tonight. Please press 0 on the keypad on your phone, if you would, please, to ask Josh a question. That's 0 on the keypad on your phone. We see some people are taking us up on that already, and we hope many more will again tonight. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. We're going to be on for the next hour. We appreciate all the people that are joining us very early. We hope you'll enjoy this call tonight, but we really, really want you to ask questions of Josh. And the best way to do that, the very best way, is to press 0 on the keypad on your phone. When you press 0 on the keypad on your phone, we'll get your question typed up, and we'll try and get you up to the front of the queue as fast as we possibly can. We really appreciate your participation tonight. I'll say this one more time, and then I'm going to hand this call off. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting tonight. We're going to be on for the next hour. We appreciate any questions you might have. Best way to ask questions is to press 0 on the keypad on your phone. We see some neighbors are taking us up on that call, on that possibility of asking Josh questions. Again, that's 0. Josh, take it away, please.
Hi, this is State Treasurer Josh Mandel. This is a telephone town hall meeting, and tonight we have neighbors on from throughout your community, and if you'd like to ask me a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. Press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue to ask me a question on this telephone town hall meeting. The reasons, among others, we do these telephone town hall meetings is to give you as citizens an opportunity to question your public officials and hold us accountable and have your voice heard. So if you'd like to ask me a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. If you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue to ask me a question. And again, this is State Treasurer Josh Mandel. This is a telephone town hall meeting that we're having in your area. Again, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone, and you'll be able to ask a question. We're going to start off with Carolyn in Lima. Carolyn, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Go ahead and ask your question, and thanks for being on. And anyone else who would like to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. Hi, Carolyn, you're on live with Josh Mandel. How are you?
Fine.
Carolyn,
Hello?
do you have a question? Do you have a question tonight?
Yes, I'm worried about Social Security being the security of it, whether it's as they say that the government and everybody is taking it all out.
Your question's about Social Security? Did I get that right? Okay, well, thanks for being on tonight, Carolyn, and if anyone else would like to be on this evening, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. If you'd like to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone, and if you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue to ask a question. Again, this is State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Just press 0 on your telephone if you'd like to ask a question like Carolyn just did. Well, Carolyn, I'm the treasurer for the state of Ohio. I'm not the treasurer for the whole country, and so on a day-to-day basis, I'm not managing the finances of Social Security that's being dealt with folks in Washington and our nation's capital. But I will tell you that I think Washington, not only the folks managing Social Security, but people managing the government there in general, can learn something from what we're doing here in the state of Ohio. Here in the state of Ohio, we've gone from an $8 billion budget hole to a $1 billion surplus for the first time in a decade where I manage money. The bond rating is up for the Ohio Enterprise Bond Fund. We've cut our budget 3 years in a row, and we're continuing to do that. You know, in my mind, Social Security is a promise to our senior citizens, and it's a promise that needs to be kept, and we need to ensure that progress is there for today and tomorrow for senior citizens. And so it's something I feel very strongly about. My grandmother is in her 80s, and it's something that I think we need to work very hard to protect far into the future. But here as the State Treasurer of Ohio, unfortunately on a day-to-day basis, I don't have an enormous impact on that. Next, we're going to go to some other questions from other people here in the community. If you'd like to ask a question like Carolyn just did, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. If you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put into a queue. And the way this works is this is a telephone town hall meeting, so it's a town hall meeting you can participate in from the comfort of your own home. And if you press 0 on your telephone right now, you won't be hung up on. You'll still be able to participate in the call. And once you press 0, you'll be put in a queue, and you'll be able to ask questions of me, State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And what happens is we're going to take as many questions as we can tonight. Again, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone in order to ask a question. All right, the next question is from Mildred. Mildred, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And if anyone else wants to ask a question like Carolyn just did and Mildred is about to, again, press 0 on your telephone, and I promise you won't be hung up on. Once you press 0 on your telephone, you'll still be able to participate in the town hall. You'll be able to listen to other callers and then ask your question. So again, press 0 on your telephone if you'd like to ask a question to me, and you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Mildred, how are you this evening? Mildred, are you there?
Yes.
Hi, how are you, Mildred?
Real well. But I've been wondering what we could do for so many insurance policies and so forth for insurance people. You know, we have another insurance, but we're spending a lot of money for keeping both of those policies. I don't know why I know it's a lot of people that are senior citizens, but I was wondering if there was something that could be done that we could put it, better things together. Hello?
Mildred, when you say things better together, you mean to make insurance more affordable, or what do you mean by that?
Yes, more affordable. It's still a lot of money to be used for insurance, but I guess it's because you're older and you have to have more money for it. But it's just so much money for everything else that I was wondering what could be feasible for some of the senior citizens.
Well, I appreciate your question there, Mildred, and if anyone else wants to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. The way that Mildred just asked that question, she pressed 0 on her telephone, and we're going to try to take as many questions as possible tonight. If you're just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Mildred was asking about how we can make insurance more affordable. One of the things that we're trying to do in the state of Ohio with some laws that have already passed is get rid of junk lawsuits. And one of the reasons why insurance is oftentimes expensive in a variety of different areas is because of junk lawsuits. Oftentimes these junk lawsuits cause insurance rates to rise. And so one of the things we've worked on back when I was in the state legislature on certain issues like this, and something I'm very passionate about today, is to make sure that in our litigious society that we don't have a lot of junk lawsuits, because these junk lawsuits are not good for citizens, they're not good for local governments, and they're not good for communities and families in general, especially senior citizens. So that's one thing we're trying to do, is get rid of the junk lawsuits. Something I will tell you, I know you didn't ask about Medicare specifically, Mildred, but something I feel very strongly about is ensuring that we do protect Medicare for our senior citizens. And as we move forward as a country, it's very important that as reforms happen in Washington, that we stay vigilant and ensure that our senior citizens are treated fairly, and no senior citizen is kicked to the curb. My grandmother is in her 80s, I mentioned earlier, and Medicare, in my mind, needs to be solvent. It needs to be presented in a way that's fiscally responsible, but also solvent, and we need to ensure that in other parts of government, we cut unnecessary spending. There's so much fat in other parts of the federal government, and one of the ways to make sure that the resources are there to preserve Medicare is to make sure that we cut government in other ways. But I feel very strongly that we need to do everything we can to ensure that we protect our senior citizens, whether it's my grandmother, or it's you, Mildred, or other senior citizens on the telephone tonight. For those of you just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel, and if you'd like to ask me a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone, and if you press 0 on your telephone, what will happen is you'll be put in a queue. You'll still be able to listen to the questions that other people are asking, and we're going to take as many questions as possible. Next, we're going to go to Tom. Tom, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And again, if anyone else wants to ask a question like Mildred just did and Tom is about to, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone, and you'll be on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel to ask a question. Tom, how are you this evening?
Good, good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question that I learned from my county treasurer that the people who turn 65 this year or later on, they have an income limitation on that homestead or that property tax break. They put some kind of income limit now that that people may not be eligible if you are making $30,000 or more. And I was wondering why they put the limit on this thing.
Tom, do you know who was it who put the limit on?
I think the state did.
Okay, so it was done at the...
you know, if you turn 65, you know, you get
sure.
about $200 on your property tax break, you know. But there is a limit now. They told me that if you turned 65 last year, you'll get the benefit. But if you turn this year or next year or later on, there is a limit for like an income limit, you know. And so I was looking forward to get some break when I retire, you know, because my income will be less than what I'm making now. And I thought that will be a good break, but some reason the state has decided to put the limit on the income to get that property tax reduction.
Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do, Tom. I'm going to have my office look into this specifically and how it impacts you. Do you have a pen there? Can I give you the number to my office? Because if you call there in the morning, I'll make sure someone answers your question. Because I could tell you something I feel very strongly about is dropping the property tax rates for senior citizens and families throughout the state. When I was a city councilman, actually, that was one of the things I was very involved with was lowering property taxes. And I've come across a lot of senior citizens and people on fixed incomes who couldn't afford to stay in their homes because the property tax rates were too high. And I feel very strongly about doing everything we can.
A couple of years ago, they built a new high school. They passed like $40 million levy, you know. So we're going to pay for 28 years. So this that's okay with me, but then the break we were supposed to get, we may not be getting, you know. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I hear you loud and clear. Let me give you the phone number. The phone number in the treasurer's office is area code 614-466 2160. Again, 614-466-2160.
Yeah, I do appreciate what you are doing for the people of Ohio. I really appreciate. You know, you are very like an active role. You know, instead of proactive role. So I appreciate what you are doing for the people of Ohio as a treasurer.
Thank you. I'm working hard and doing what I can to keep everyone's hard-earned tax money safe in Columbus and make good decisions for people throughout the state. I mean, the way I see my job, Tom, is that I have 11.5 million bosses. The people of the state of Ohio is my boss, and I try to do what I can for the people of the state.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much. All right. For those of you just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And if you'd like to ask me a question like Tom just did, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. And if you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue to ask a question. We're going to take as many questions as possible tonight. Again, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel, for those of you just joining us. And if you'd like to ask me a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. And if you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue, and we're going to take as many questions as possible. And if you do press 0 on your telephone, you won't be hung up on. You'll still be able to go to the other questions and listen to them, and we're going to take as many questions as we can. Ruth Ann, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing wonderfully. How about you?
I'm doing well also. My wife and I, Alana, we have a 1-year-old at home, Rosie, and she's healthy, and things in the state treasurer's office are going well. We when I first came in, we were ranked 43rd in the country as far as the overall fiscal condition of the state, and now we're ranked 7th in the country by a different organization. So I would say at work things are definitely going well, and at home things are good, and I can't complain tonight.
Well, I just spent the last 3 weeks out in California with my 2 granddaughters and my son's family, so I'm very happy. And I was a classmate of Ted Strickland's and got to know the treasurer, I believe, before you came in, because we were maybe running a little more democratic. I'm from Ottawa, Ohio, and I was asking about how Ted's been, Mr. Strickland, and also about any news on the flooding problems in Ottawa, Ohio. Of course, we don't have any now, but it always looms in the background. But I'm happy with you, Josh. Don't get me wrong.
Hey, thank you. I have not talked to Governor Strickland in a while. He was the governor when I was in the legislature, and
exactly.
I got to know him a little. And, I think he's a very nice person. I didn't agree with him on all of the policies, but I think he's a very nice person.
Well,
the last
I
heard,
Asbury together.
Yeah. The last I heard is he has it's some type of a political or government consulting type business. So I think he's doing that, and I think he was also possibly like an honorary chairman of a national organization or something like that. So I don't know the names of the groups because I haven't paid that much attention. Okay. But I'm sure he's doing well, and I know there's a lot of people out there who think he's a very nice person, and I always thought that he was very good. I didn't agree with everything, but he had very good intentions, and I felt like his things came from a good place. He was a very nice man and an earnest man.
Well, he was a minister, so we like to think that our ministers, and yes, he was. Came from a good family and all that. And yes, and so what are your new projects that you have in mind?
We're working on a lot of things in the Treasurer's office. Let me tell you one I'm especially excited about. I'm a big believer in government transparency and empowering the citizens to see how their tax money is being spent. And so one of the things we're working on is taking the state's checkbook and putting it on the Internet, so everyone throughout the state will be able to see how the tax money is being spent. I've gotten sort of sick and tired of these bureaucrats and politicians who are using taxpayer money to go on these lavish trips to Hawaii and Disney World and all these different places. And because of that and a lot of other waste in government, I've said, the best way to make our state government more efficient is to open up the books and show the people how the money is being spent. There was a judge once who said that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant to government waste, and I believe in that. If we could just shine sunlight on government spending, it'll make government smaller because it'll make politicians and bureaucrats think twice before they waste taxpayer money or defraud the citizens.
I'm a school teacher. We know more than fly to the moon would we spend money that was not ours. I mean,
yes,
it's
ma'am.
just common freaking sense.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I agree.
If you ever need any help working on those kind of projects, let me know. I'm a good volunteer. I do a lot of volunteering for Red Cross and cancer. So, if I see a cause that, and just like child trafficking, I was a president of the Retired Teachers Association here in Putnam County, and that just called to mind just something like, oh my gosh, how can people do things like that? So get right on it and do what you can to solve the problem. Sounds like
yes,
that's
ma'am.
what you're doing. I like that idea of being transparent about your taxes and seeing that on. I would like to have that. I have a real quick question. Do I have time?
Sure, Ruth Ann, go ahead.
About our property taxes. When Ted was in office, Governor Strickland, we did get the householders exemption if you were 65 and older, and I heard that we were going to lose that. but we haven't lost it yet here in Putnam County. Is that just a Putnam County thing, or is that a statewide thing? Isn't it a statewide thing?
You know, it's interesting. The gentleman, I think it was one caller before you or two before you, asked a question on that. And I should say before I get to that, Ruth Ann, for anyone who's just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And if you'd like to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. And again, if you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be on live with me, State Treasurer Josh Mandel. So we're going to look into that. If you want to call my office tomorrow morning, I can give you the phone number and we could find out how that's going to impact you. Do you have a pen handy on the property tax and the homestead exemption?
Yes, I'm going to get that right now.
All right.
Okay,
the number to the office in Columbus is area code 614.
Of course.
466.
466.
2160. And if you call there, just ask for the constituent. Yeah. 614-466-2160, and just ask for the Constituent Affairs Office, and we will get you an answer. Because I imagine there's a lot of senior citizens on tonight who have questions about the homestead exemption, and I want to make sure we get to
the Constituent's Office. I didn't understand what kind of office that was.
Yes, ma'am. It's our Constituent Affairs Department.
Okay.
And that we deal with. We help out constituents there.
That's us. Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Will do. Thank you.
I hope you have a great evening.
And you too, and bless your family.
Thank you so much. Same to yours. Thanks for being on. For anyone who's just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. If you'd like to ask a question like Ruth Ann just did, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. If you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue. And once you're put in a queue, we're going to take as many questions as possible. So again, press 0 on your telephone if you'd like to ask a question, and you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. The next question is from Camille. Camille, good evening. I hope you're having a good evening. You're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Go ahead and ask your question.
I just wondered, Mr. Mandel, what you thought of the new Medicaid that's been evidently is going to be in the state of Ohio, and what's that going to do to our Treasury?
Well, it's a good question. There was a very contentious debate in Columbus, and the state legislature actually ended up not being able to pass the Medicaid expansion bill through the state house, and ended up being passed through this board within the state government. I came out against the expansion for a few reasons. One of the reasons was, I have a concern, especially among working age men and women in the state, that the state of Ohio should be doing everything we can to wean folks off a culture of dependence on government, and we want to have a culture in Ohio and in America, where people are, as much as possible, especially working-age men and women, dependent on themselves, as opposed to depending on government. And I had a concern that this Medicaid expansion could possibly facilitate more of a culture of dependence on government, which is, not fair to a lot of taxpayers throughout the state and throughout the country. Another concern that was I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Do you know, will any illegal immigrants be paid for their insurance through this bill as it's written now?
I hope not. I hope that, innocent, law-abiding citizens are not having their tax money used in the, form of welfare for people who are breaking the law. And so I hope not. I'm not the one who's going to be administering the program, but listen, I recognize the fact that you and so many others, work hard and play by the rules, and I think it's unfair for your tax money to be used to benefit someone who's not playing by the rules.
Exactly. Okay. I guess I'm probably not asking the right person. I should.
No.
Sorry.
Well, I'm glad to answer the questions. Those are the reasons I came out against it. It sounds like you and I are on the same page philosophically.
Right.
And so, I appreciate you being on tonight, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, and you too.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, ma'am. For those of you just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. If you'd like to ask me a question like Camille just did, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. And if you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue. And once you're put in the queue, you'll still be able to listen to the other callers and listen to the rest of the telephone town hall meeting. And we're going to take as many questions as possible on this telephone town hall meeting. Again, if you're just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel, and all you have to do is press 0 to ask a question. Next, we're going to go to Anna. Anna, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. I hope you're having a great evening, and I'm glad to take your question.
Oh, yes, thank you. Actually, after listening, a couple questions came up. With the last lady that was speaking about people who get on welfare, I've worked my whole life, and I just feel like I'm paying again for everything. You know, I feel like with the medication, like medications, you know, not that I'm looking for extra help. It's just that, I mean, medication just keeps going up and up and up, and we're like, you know, we're just strapped to get our medication, you know, and when we ask for help, those that have worked their whole life, I mean, they act like, you know, we're taking from them. And I was thinking about that, and also, you know, I just feel like we need stricter welfare laws, you know. At the age of 35, I broke my ankle, and I remember having to go and get assistance, and I went back to work a whole 2 weeks early, took off my cast, which now I pay for it, of course. And, you know, I just wondered, you know, are you working on any kind of major projects for senior citizens, those who have turned 66?
Well, I appreciate your question. Let me talk to you about, in the State Treasurer's Office, how some of the things I do impact senior citizens. One of the things that I do in the State Treasurer's Office is manage a lot of local government investments. And so cities and libraries and different organizations that might interact with senior citizen centers and senior citizens directly oftentimes send their tax money to me, and we invest it. We hold it in safety, and then we manage the liquidity of it, and we invest it as well, try to make as much of a yield as possible. And so if we do a good job managing those investments, when we send the money back to your community, there's more money there to pay for senior citizen services and other services your community might provide for senior citizens, whether that's special healthcare services or maybe that's other services for senior citizens, whether it's city entertainment or other things that the community might do for citizens beyond healthcare. So that's one thing, one way I interact. Another thing I've become very involved with is impacting tax policy for the state. I've been involved with the municipal income tax simplification. I was very involved with eliminating the death tax for the state of Ohio. And I've also been going back to when I was a city councilman and my time through the state legislature and continuing now as state treasurer, a strong proponent of lowering property taxes, especially for senior citizens. I've developed a realization that senior citizens are the ones that are hurt the most by high property tax rates because senior citizens oftentimes are the ones who are living on fixed incomes. And I've come across a lot of senior citizens who are living on fixed incomes who have already paid off their mortgage, but they can't afford to stay in their home. They're literally forced to leave their home because of the property tax rates. And so that's something as state treasurer I'm going to try to tackle, working with my partners in the legislature to do everything we can to lower property tax rates for senior citizens throughout the state.
Yeah, because, I mean, I live in an apartment now, and that's one of the things that happened. I had to give up my home. I sold my home because, I mean, I wasn't able, to keep up the grounds and all that, which, but I still have a sister who still owns a home, and, I mean, it's just, really difficult. She's 60 now, so she's not quite there yet, but, it just sort of concerns me that, with everything, and I know you don't have control of everything, but, from food to, we want to make ourselves more healthier, but the cost of food and all that is just unbearable. It's just, you go and then you pay, you know what I'm saying? It just seems like senior citizens are constantly paying extra. I don't know why. Yes. That seems like it.
I agree, ma'am. My grandma Harriet, she's 85 years old, and she and I talk about this quite a bit. She's we talk about quite a bit, and I hear about it from her friends as well. And it's an issue that I feel very passionately about. I think about my grandmother, and I think about people her age, and I feel that in a lot of ways, the strength of America was built on the backs of our senior citizens. The World War II generation and folks who came right after that. Such hardworking men and women who sacrificed. So, someone like me, I'm 36 years old. I can raise my daughter. My wife and I can raise little Rosie, who's 1-year-old, into a great state and a great country because of the sacrifices of people who came before us. And so. I'm a big believer in doing everything we can to protect our senior citizens and give you an opportunity to have affordable and dependable health care and at the same time be able to stay in your home.
Right. Yeah, the health care is,
Yes,
I just wish there was a way that we could control, some of that, especially, when you just go to the doctor and
yes,
it just goes on and on and on. But anything that you could do for us, that is absolutely a help, of course. So
yes, ma'am. Listen, I hope you have a great evening. If anyone else wants to ask a question, all you have to do is I'm gonna take some more questions because we've got a lot of callers on tonight. If anyone else listening wants to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. For those of you just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Again, press 0 on your telephone if you'd like to ask a question, and you'll be able to ask me a question. Next, we're going to go to a question from Sharon. Sharon, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. I hope you're having a great evening, and I'm glad to take your question here on this telephone town hall meeting.
Yes, I'm wondering if you're doing anything for farmland. The taxes are going up terrible in Paulding County and in Van Wert County next year for farmers. Are you doing anything about that?
I am. So one of the things that I've been very involved with is eliminating the death tax, the estate tax for citizens throughout the state. As you probably know, this is a tax that was especially hit farmers and family-owned farms, very hard. It got so bad to the point where sometimes the kids and grandkids had to actually sell the family farm in order to pay the estate taxes. So that's one thing. Something else that I've been involved with, throughout the state of Ohio, is the simplification of our municipal income tax. Ohio is the only state in America that has a municipal income tax, a local income tax system that allows every single city, village, municipal entity to make up their own rules, their own regulations, their own rates, and their own farms. And so if you're a farmer that's doing business in multiple municipal entities throughout the state of Ohio, you would have to figure out the different tax rules and regulations in all these different entities. And oftentimes, you have people, especially in rural areas, spending more on tax preparation than you do in the actual taxes. I was actually talking to a guy the other day in Auglaize County. He works in as an electrical field, and he gave me examples of times when he was spending more on paying accountants and folks like that than he was in the actual taxes. And in my mind, whenever a farmer or anyone else, small business person throughout the state or senior citizen, is spending more on accountants and lawyers than they are and the actual taxes that they're paying, there's a serious problem there. And I think as a policymaker, one of the things I could do is help advocate for policy that gets rid of the red tape, that gets rid of the bureaucracy and all the paperwork. So instead of spending a bunch of money on lawyers and accountants and compliance stuff, you're spending money on managing your farm or managing your small business, or if you're a senior citizen, on saving to make sure that you have funds to pay for your health care and your livelihood. In my mind, agriculture is one of the main components of Ohio's economic backbone, and so as state treasurer, I'm trying to do everything I can to create an economic environment for farmers and agriculture to flourish. And I very much appreciate you being on tonight and asking your question. And if anyone else wants to ask a question like just happened, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. For those of you just joining us, press 0 on your telephone, and you'll be put in a queue to ask a question. You're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. The next question we're going to go to is from Manya. Manya, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If I'm not, please correct it for me and everyone on the call. And again, I appreciate you being on tonight. You're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And if anyone wants to ask a question like Manya's about to, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone.
That is correct. My name's Manya, and I'm a physician assistant here in Ohio, and I practice medicine, and I have for a long time, 18 years. And it just seems like over the last 18 years, there's been so much more abuse of the system with a lot of people using drugs, and they're on the system. Is there any funds set aside to consider doing drug testing on people who are on public assistance? Because it seems, at least in my county, I live in Highland County, there is so much abuse, and although they're getting assistance for health care as well as food and everything else and get free college, but there's a lot of people on the system, but yet they're actually selling drugs to the young children of even working people and the welfare homes, and it just seems that it's flourishing so much. And what's going to be done to keep people on assistance from, selling drugs and making profits, which, of course, there's no taxes on that, and yet really abusing the system?
Well, I appreciate your question. This is an issue that I've spoken about in the past and feel very strongly about. I mean, if you think about it, when you're going to apply for a job where you work, I don't know if are you at a hospital or in a doctor's office? Or
I work at a hospital. I work in Occ Health, and we do drug tests for all the businesses, but we don't do them for people who are getting free assistance.
Exactly. So let me ask you a question. When you had to go apply for your job there, you probably had to take a drug test, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So my feeling is, if you have to take a drug test in order to gain employment, before you get hired, I think people should have to take a drug test in order to gain unemployment benefits or to gain Medicaid or welfare. And I agree with you that it's unfair for innocent, law-abiding citizens for their tax money to be used to pay for Medicaid or unemployment benefits for folks who are abusing drugs. And I think in order to receive Medicaid benefits or to receive unemployment benefits, someone should have to be able to pass a drug test the same way that someone has to pass a drug test in order to get a job very, very often. I mean, I'll tell you a story. I was in Canton last week up in Stark County, and I was talking to this guy who works in manufacturing, and he was telling me that 1/3, 33% of the people that come and apply for jobs there are popping positive on their drug tests. They're failing the drug test, and he says that's after they're told that there will be a drug test in order to get a job there. And this is a serious problem. It's drug abuse is a serious problem, especially with heroin and meth and other drugs like that throughout the state. And we've had some of our public officials in the state who are really spending a lot of time working on this issue. But to your specific question, I think it's unfair for innocent, law-abiding citizens for their tax money to be used to pay for welfare, Medicaid, unemployment benefits for someone who's abusing drugs.
So is there anything in the works to change that and do drug testing?
It's a good question. So I believe that a legislator has introduced that bill in Columbus. I don't recall if it was the last General Assembly session or this one, but I'm almost positive the bill along those lines has been introduced. I don't think it's gotten much traction at the State House. A bill like this, I think, passed or came close to passing in Florida, and it was relatively controversial down there. And I'm pretty sure that some of the legislators in Columbus have introduced legislation like that. If they haven't, I can tell you and promise you this, that I will encourage them to introduce legislation like that. But it has not passed the House or the Senate, to my knowledge. But I would be a strong supporter of that type of legislation to basically say to folks, listen, if you want to get Medicaid or unemployment benefits or other types of welfare off the backs of taxpayers, then you have to pass a drug test.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I know that it would make a big difference. And there's a lot of kids that their parents sell their sell groceries so that they can buy drugs, and the kids still have no groceries in the home, even though we're paying for that. And then they use all the food money for drugs, and the kids still don't hurt. I mean, they still are hurting just as much as they would if that family didn't get money.
Yes, ma'am. Listen, I really appreciate being on tonight, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you.
And thanks for what you do. Working in healthcare. It's we have I have family friends who are nurses and others who work in healthcare, and I think what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, taking care of people, especially the most vulnerable among us, is very, very important work. Have a good evening. All right, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. If anyone would like to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. If you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue, and if you're put in a queue, we're going to take as many questions as possible. And when you're put in that queue to ask a question, you will not be disconnected. We're going to take as many questions as possible. Next, we're going to take a question from Mike. Mike, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. I hope you're having a great evening. And again, if anyone wants to ask a question like Mike's about to do, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. Take it away, Mike.
Hey, Josh. Hey, first thing, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. Are you a Marine as well?
Yes.
All right. When were you in the Marine Corps?
I just retired in 2009.
Did you do a full 20, or how long did you spend in?
Yep, full 20.
All right. Well, thanks for your service. I did not do that long. I went through Parris Island in the year 2000 and ended up finishing up my service in 2008. So I have a lot of respect for someone like you who paved the way well before I was in there.
Oh yeah, and I was definitely there when he was there at Parris Island. So
yeah, it sounds like your time. It sounds like your time in the Marine Corps preceded my time and succeeded my time in the Marine Corps. So yeah, I was there during your time. What was your job in the Marines?
Oh, it started off as a 03 walk a lot and ended up as a crash crewman.
All right, nice. You get over to Iraq or Afghanistan at all?
Yep, both those. First Gulf and the current one.
Oh wow. Well, thanks for your service, and thanks for paving the way for young guys like me. I have a lot of respect for our men and women who serve in all branches of the service, and appreciate being on. What can I do for you tonight? What's your question?
Oh, my question is, I've been reading on your site there about the veterans preference, and my question is, because I've been running into a lot of this with my education in the Marine Corps and doing all the education with the fire service, and my question is, basically, the state of Ohio doesn't recognize what we do in the military, and we all have to re-educate ourselves again when you come back to the States. And I'm just wondering, if we're dealing with veterans preference, how come that doesn't apply to, the same schools that the firefighters are doing?
It's a very good question, and it's your question is actually timely as well. The state of Ohio actually is in the process of changing the rules in the state. So when servicemen and women come back from overseas, the licenses that you might receive and the training you receive in the military is applicable and recognized here stateside as well. And so, for instance, if you're a truck driver and you're driving a truck in the streets of Iraq or Afghanistan, dodging roadside bombs and managing people and keeping your troops safe and secure, I would argue that you should be able to get credit for that service when you're trying to get a commercial driver's license here in the States to drive a tractor trailer, 18-wheeler, what have you. Same way if you worked in some type of fire type position or MP, military police type position, or other trigger puller type position, you should get credit for that if you're taking a weapons type exam, let's say for a police force, a highway patrol, or let's say you were a special type of paramedic in the Air Force and you're going to apply to be a firefighter or paramedic, and you should get credit for that. And so the state of Ohio is working right now on changing the rules here in the state so that men and women coming home will in fact get credit for the training they received in the service. And so it sounds like what you're saying is something that a lot of folks here in the state are recognizing is an issue, and the state of Ohio is trying to do something about it. The guy who introduced the piece of legislation is a guy named Mike Davila. He's a state representative from a town called Berea, which is in the Cleveland area. He's a Navy vet. I think he served in Iraq or Afghanistan, and I recently read about this. He said about 26 states have passed legislation directing colleges and universities to adopt policies for recognizing military-acquired skills and learning, and you have about 45 states that have enacted legislation directing licensing boards. So, like I was mentioning, truck driver's license or some type of, safety force license to accept military experience and professions. Also, medicine. You think about, folks who might have worked as Navy corpsmen or Army medics, what have you. So I think they should get that credit for that training, and it sounds like you do as well. And the state of Ohio is in the process of doing something about it.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been a firefighter for almost 25 years. Here in Cryersville, off and on as a volunteer. And I went to the Marine Corps, became a crash crew guy. And, we had that school down in Texas, the academy and everything. And I got my fire officers and paramedic and everything come back to Ohio, and it's like they're like, oh, you got to retake the test.
Yeah, I think that's crazy, and so we're I'm a supporter of this type of initiative to give credit for the work that men and women have done in the military, give them credit on the civilian side. I just think it's common sense. It's a way to say thank you for the veterans, but more important than that, it's just common sense. That training, you should get some type of credit for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, thanks for taking my call, and Semper Fi, and good luck.
Semper Fi, Mike. Thanks for being on tonight. For those of you just joining us, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. If you'd like to ask a question like Mike just did, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone, and if you press 0 on your telephone, you'll be put in a queue to ask me a question. All right, next question we're going to go to is from Craig. Craig, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. How you doing tonight? Craig, you there?
Yep.
You there? All right. How you doing?
Good. I was wondering, I got a small-time construction business. I was just wondering why we got to pay tax on fuel, like for dozers and stuff like that, because we run them off-road.
Can you ask that question again?
Like construction equipment, why are we paying fuel tax on that when it's state tax on that when it's no different than a farmer? It's all off-road use.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. It's not an issue that I've been very involved with. To comfortably answer your question, I'd have to talk to my office because I wouldn't consider myself a subject matter expert in that. Can I give you a phone number in my office? If you call there tomorrow morning and ask for my constituent affairs office, I think we can get you a question. But I'd hate to try to answer your question now and then give you a wrong answer. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Do you have a pen handy?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Okay, I'm ready whenever.
All right. The phone number to my office is area code 614-466-2160. And if you want to if you want to ask any other questions when you call there tomorrow, they can field other questions. This is a constituent affairs office that handles constituent questions and inquiries. I will tell you, though, just let me talk at a 10,000-foot level. I think our tax code is too complicated, and in many ways it's unfair. When you look at the federal level, when a company like General Electric can file a 50,000-page federal tax return and pay zero taxes, it's unfair to mom-and-pop businesses who, obviously aren't living by the same rules and don't have the money to hire the armies of compliance officers and attorneys and lobbyists to figure that stuff out. And so I think our federal tax system needs to be simplified. I also think our state tax system needs to be simplified as well. It's just when you have this very, very complicated tax system, it's unfair to senior citizens and it's unfair to small business people, and that's that's what we're dealing with right now. And I don't think the tax code should punish the taxpayer and the small businesses, but in a lot of ways, the way the tax code is structured today, it punishes small businesses and it punishes taxpayers. And so I'll have someone from my constituent affairs office tonight or tomorrow morning research your specific issue. If you call tomorrow morning, we'll get you an answer, but I can't tell you in general. I don't think the tax code should be punishing people like yourself. We need to streamline and make it more friendly to taxpayers and small businesses. So listen, I appreciate you being on tonight, and if anyone else wants to ask a question like Craig just did, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone. You'll be on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Again, press 0 on your telephone, and you'll be on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. This is a telephone town hall meeting. Next, we're going to go to David. David, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. Take it away. David, you there? David? Looks like we lost David. All right, let's go to Danny. Danny, you're on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. If you'd like to ask me a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone, and you'll be on live with State Treasurer Josh Mandel. And anyone else who wants to ask a question, again, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone, and you'll be put in the queue to ask a question. Danny, are you there?
Yes, sir. Hi, Josh.
Hey.
I'm proud to be a Buckeye.
Me too.
I think we've got the best state in the union, and we've got a state treasurer that seems to be really, truly concerned about the people in the state. I appreciate that. Now, I'm a retired senior citizen. You've been talking to seniors all night, and we're the people that have brought this state to where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
However, here we're going right back to property taxes. I'm thinking every month I pay the county treasurer a fee that almost equals my house payment in the day. I think, boy, I wish that would go away. And then I go to the grocery store, and groceries are going through the roof. And then I got to get my gas, and that's going crazy. Is there any hope for us?
There is. I mean, you have a group of folks in Columbus who I think are doing what they can to take care of good public policy for senior citizens. I'm one of them. I mean, I don't know if you've been on the call this evening, but I've mentioned my grandma Harriet a few times. She's 85 years old, and
yeah.
A lot of times when I make decisions as a policymaker, going back to when I was a city councilman, through my time in the state legislature, and now as state treasurer, I think about what's good for our senior citizens. Obviously, I think about the whole state, but especially senior citizens, because you said it well. Our state and our country, in large parts, were built on the backs of senior citizens. The people who are the senior citizens today, the folks who were in that World War II generation and the generation that came after during Korea and Vietnam, those senior citizens labored and sweat and worked so hard so that we can live in this great country today. And that's one of the reasons why I've been very involved over my time in public service with lowering property taxes for senior citizens and citizens across the board. It's one of the reasons why, as state treasurer, I've worked very hard as we manage the local government investments for the state to ensure that the money we're investing on behalf of local communities and cities is invested in a frugal way and a responsible way. Because if we do it in a frugal and responsible way, it means we could send more money back to those communities so they can use it for senior citizen services, whether it's for healthcare or other senior citizen services.
Sure,
Third,
absolutely.
I will tell you, when I was in the state legislature, I did everything I could to work on policies that would protect our senior citizens, far into the future. And one of the things, I've been, working on now, as state treasurer, is ensuring that we keep the credit rating and the bond rating high where I manage money, because those are essentially the financial report cards for the state. And if the state gets bad financial report cards, it's very possible that the state legislature can try to raise taxes on senior citizens or on others down the road. And so I'm proud to tell you that for the first time in a decade, we've increased the bond rating for the Ohio Enterprise Bond Fund. And on top of that, while 14 states and local governments throughout the country were downgraded, we earned a AAA rating on the multi-billion-dollar investment fund I manage on behalf of local governments. As I mentioned, a lot of communities and cities and villages that manage senior citizen funding and other services for senior citizen. I also think in order to protect funding for senior citizens, we have to cut other parts of government that have too much fat and have too much waste. It's one of the reasons why I've become a strong proponent and really a leader at the tip of the spear for government transparency. I'm very involved with a piece of legislation, House Bill 175, that will force the state treasurer's office to put the state's checkbook online. And I asked them to do this. I want to put the state's checkbook online because I think if we can get all those finances online on the internet, you'll be able to see how the tax money is being spent. And if we could make cuts in other parts of state government, there'll be more money for important services for senior citizens. And you'd be surprised at like a lot of the ways the state government wastes money. There's just a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in different parts of the state and federal government. And the more we could smoke out these people who are wasting taxpayer money by empowering you, the citizens, to hold the government workers accountable, the more efficient our government will be. And in my mind, the more money we'll have for senior citizens as well. All right. Well, I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate you asking that question. Sorry if my answer was a little long-winded, but I'm passionate about that issue. All right. Next, what's that? I'm sorry. Are you there? You're cutting in and out. All right. Let's go to a question here from David. David, you're on live with the State Treasurer Josh Mandel.
Good afternoon, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I have a question relating to your responsibility to the comptroller of the currency.
Okay.
And what does his office have to do with the state treasury?
All right. Well, I appreciate being on. I appreciate you asking that question. And for those of you just joining us, this is the end of our telephone town hall meeting. We're going to have to take that as the last question. If anyone did not get to ask a question, don't hang up. After I'm done talking here, you'll be able to leave your question for me, and we'll get back to you. But let me tell you a little bit about what the state treasurer does. So I manage tax money for the state. I manage the investments. I would collect, protect, and invest that tax money. We hold it in trust while we collect it. So when we collect it, we make sure that we're holding it in a safe way. In the past, in this office, there's actually in previous administrations, there's been money lost and money stolen. And one of the things that we do in the state treasurer's office in my administration is make sure we hold that money safe. And we've received a clean audit 3 years in a row from the state auditor's office. And part of that is holding that money safe and secure. Second thing we do is we invest that money, whether it's local tax money that's used for cops and firefighters and teachers and senior citizen services, or it's other state tax money that's used for educating our kids. We invest it. We invest it in a safe way. We maintain a good amount of liquidity, but we also do it in a way that produces a yield, so that money is used and is there to pay for educating our kids and taking care of our senior citizens and keeping our streets safe and secure. And the third thing we do in the state treasurer's office is we're the custodian for a lot of the dollars throughout the state that are in different funds, whether those are pension funds or others. We're the custodian for those, and we ensure that while that money is in custody, it's held safe and secure. A lot of these pension dollars in other parts of the country are not necessarily safe. I mean, look what happened in Detroit, where a lot of these retirees were losing. It looks like they're going to lose some of their pensions, and you see pensions in other parts of this country not safe. One of the things we do is make sure we ensure that the custodial operations of those pension funds are managed in a way that's safe for retirees, protecting the retirees' hard-earned money. One of the other things I do as state treasurer is I've spearheaded transparency initiatives for the state of Ohio. I took my salary, the salary of all of my treasurer office employees, the salary of all the state employees. I put them on the internet so you as taxpayers could see how your money's being spent in the form of salaries. And now I'm working on putting the state's checkbook online because I believe you, the people, have a right to see how the tax money is being spent. So those are a lot of the things that we do here in the state treasurer's office. And the comptroller of the currency, that's in Washington, and so that's under the U.S. Department of Treasury, and that's separate from our office. We don't regulate banks in our office, and there's actually a separate state office that in the Department of Commerce that regulates banks. So we focus on collecting, protecting, and investing tax money. We also protect in custody, as I mentioned, retirees' money, and I advocate very strongly for common sense tax policy for senior citizens and small businesses, whether it's getting rid of the death tax lowering property taxes, simplifying municipal income taxes, or putting the state's checkbook out there for everyone to see it. These are a lot of the issues as state treasurer I've been involved with. And I think that's a good question to end on, David. I appreciate you asking it. Again, this has been a telephone town hall meeting hosted by your state treasurer, Josh Mandel. I believe you as citizens have a right to know how your tax money is being spent. I think you also have a right to question your public officials and hold us accountable, and that's one of the reasons why we're hosting these telephone town hall meetings, so your voice is heard. If you're on the phone and want to ask a question but didn't get to, don't hang up. Once I finish the call here, you can leave a voicemail for me, and we'll get back to you in short time. So again, this is State Treasurer Josh Mandel. I appreciate you being on tonight, and I hope you have a great evening.